Today I'd like to share with you how to make a cake like this one. It's called Persian Love Cake. I first tried something like this in an Ottolenghi cafe in London and loved it so much. It's been on my to-do list for many years. Had a play and I've come up with this version with rose petals and which you can eat, and pistachios. So if you want to see how to make my Persian love cake, maybe just in time for Valentine's Day, come with me and let's see. So before we get mixing, I just want to explain what's in a Persian love cake. Lemon zest with a hint of almond meal, some cinnamon and cardamom. We've got butter and sugar to mix together. A little touch of yogurt. Sorry for my vegan friends out there, you can swap it out for vegan yogurt. Hint of either pink food colouring or raspberry. We're going to top it off with some really fancy rose petals, and also the edible rose petals and pistachios, and a little bit of cream cheese. And we've got eggs and flour. So let's get mixing. So the first step in our Persian love cake, we've got 200 grams of caster sugar. So I'm going to mix it with my paddle beater just on medium until it's light and fluffy. And I've got some unsalted butter. I've pre-chopped so it can go a little bit softer, and that's room temperature. So we just need to mix that for a couple of minutes, probably about 2 minutes. So the next step is we need to add the eggs one at a time. So they're just medium eggs. And a little tip to stop it curdling a little bit, we're going to add some of our almond meal, or ground almonds as some people know it as. We might just need to help this along with a spatula. The next egg goes in. Pop in a little bit more almond meal and a little bit of our flour. The next step, we're going to add half a cup of Greek yogurt. While that's mixing, I'm going to prepare my bundt pan. So a trick to make sure it doesn't stick is I've been using sunflower spray and it's been working a treat. So none of my cakes have actually stuck. If you don't have this, you can drizzle some melted butter or brush melted butter. And just to help this out, I'm going to use some flour. So I'm just sprinkling some flour in the pan as well. So now we're adding the rest of our almond and our flour. We've got some spices. We're adding 1 teaspoon of cinnamon and 1/4 teaspoon of cardamom. If you didn't have cardamom, sometimes in the UK or Australia it's hard to buy ground cardamom. You can leave it out. And we need a pinch of salt. There's probably a little pinch of salt in there. And just make sure there's no mix sitting at the bottom of your KitchenAid. I almost forgot. I forgot the lemon zest. I've just zested 1 lemon, so we need to add that in as well. And then finally, 1 tablespoon of rosewater syrup. That just gives it a little hint of rose. And that's it. Everything's mixed. Now we just need to pop it into our bundt. One thing I didn't mention at the beginning of the video, you need to preheat your oven. I've got a fan forced oven, so I've got it on 160 degrees. If you don't have a fan, pop it on 180. So now we're going to bake this in our preheated oven for 40 minutes. That's it. The Persian love cake's about to go in the oven. Just before the cake comes out of the oven, we've got 5 minutes to go. I'm going to make a glaze that we pour over or brush over the cake once it's out of the oven. So we've got 2 tablespoons of sugar, which we're going to melt down on my little stove top here with some lemon juice, the juice of 1 whole lemon, and then we've got a tablespoon of rosewater syrup. This isn't completely necessary, but it adds a little bit of moisture to the cake. So we just need to make sure the sugar's dissolved and slightly bubbly. A handy little hint to help remove the cake from the bundt pan. I've placed a damp tea towel. I've just wet it under some water on a baking tray. So when the cake comes out of the oven, I'm going to sit it on that and let it sit there for 10 minutes, and the moisture from the wet tea towel or the damp cloth will help release the cake from the tin, and then we flip it over and it'll come out perfectly. So our timer's going off and I'm going to grab the cake out of the oven. Wow, it looks perfect. It's a little bit cracked on top, but don't worry because we're flipping it over and you won't see that. So one way to check it's cooked, I've got a little skewer here. Just pop it in, and if it comes out clean, yeah, that's done. So before we flip it over, I'm going to poke holes in the cake. And then this hot syrup that we just melted our sugar down, we're going to drizzle that over. You can hear it bubbling. Now we need to let that sit for 10 minutes before we attempt to get it out. Let's try and get this little cake out of the tin. So I've just given it a little bit of a nudge with my spatula to try and release it from the edges, but you just want to be gentle so you don't damage the cake. So I've got a slate board. I've been using these, they're great for my cakes, and yeah, the tin's okay to touch, so we'll just flip it. 1, 2, 3, flip! And hopefully we can hear the cake coming out. This is always a scary bit. Oh, voila! Magic! So we'll let this cool so it's room temperature before we add our icing. Our cake is cool and ready to start icing. So we'll just move that to one side. I've got my icing sugar here and I'm just going to sift it. So our icing sugar is all sifted. So we're going to add the lemon juice. We're just adding 1 tablespoon. And then we're going to mix it with our whisk. And then I've got some Philadelphia cream cheese. I've had it at room temperature softening. So I'm going to add the whole container. It seems like a lot, but trust me, it's delicious. And then I've got some raspberries that I've been defrosted. I'm just going to add the juice from that, roughly about 3 teaspoons. If you don't have raspberries on hand, you can use pink food colouring, just like this little one. So we're going to mix that all together. Actually, I think I need extra help. I'm going to grab my beater. That's much better, smooth in no time. Let me just check the flavour. I think I can add a little bit more lemon juice. I'm going to add another ½ a tablespoon. We don't want to put too much in to make it go too creamy. So that's my colour now. I think I want to try and get a little bit more red into it. So I'm going to add a little bit more of the juice. So you just make the raspberry or the pink icing to your desired colour. Let's give it another whisk. You can either drizzle this with a spoon on top of your cake, but I'm practicing, because I'm not really good at frosting or icing, I'm practicing using my piping bags. So I'm going to show you how I piped it last time to get my drizzle effect on the cake. So we need to pop this into the fridge for about 20 to 30 minutes because it's a little bit too runny for the piping bag. As you can see, it's kind of a bit loose. So let me just pop this in the fridge and then we'll come back and ice it. Now the exciting part, we're going to ice the cake. So we've got our cream cheese icing out of the fridge. So I'm going to use a disposable piping bag, rest it in my glass here. So we're going to first of all put the plastic nozzle in the base, and then we're going to fill it up with the cream cheese. Twist the top of this, squeeze our icing to the bottom, and then we just need to snip off the plastic end to start drizzling it on. So if I just slide the cake down, so I'm just going to drizzle on the very top edge of the cake, and then it'll just naturally drizzle down. Okay, I think that's enough. And then we're just going to add some of these pretty rose petals just to the top edge. A suggestion, if you can't find these edible rose petals, you can use something like freeze-dried raspberries. And then I've got some chopped up pistachios as well. So it's just a teaspoon of each. And look, it doesn't have to be perfect, it's just the dramatic effect. I love the green and the pink colours together. And that's it, my Persian love cake. Ta-da! So if you've liked my Persian love cake and you've tried it, let me know in the comments below. And if you want the full recipe, hit the link in the description below and that'll take you back to my blog with all the ingredients and the method again if you wanted to try making it. And if you want to see any more of my videos, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell, and then as soon as I've released one, we'll let you know. Okay, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!